For landlords, by landlords. The Rent Perfect Podcast with David Pickrum.
Well, we have a very important guest with us today on the Rent Perfect Podcast. Usually we are an in-studio, in-person, but Jonna with us today in Boise, Idaho. It's so important that I have her here. We just couldn't get her in person, and we said, hey, let's make an exception and let's get her online. She's someone that we all need to know and hear from. Jonna, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. And after that intro, I think I should have jumped on a plane and come to sunny Arizona for this, but we'll make it for the next time.
So let's do some old people talk. It's like 60 degrees here. You know, I just took off a jacket. It's a little cold for me, but where are you sitting today?
Yeah, we're sitting we're in the 20s. We're
all good. My goodness.
It's sunny. It's beautiful.
I don't know if I could manage property in the 20s. You're going to have to tell me how you do that. But we're looking forward to learning a little bit about the Boise REIN today that you run, and also kind of how you manage your long-term rentals. I always like to hear how different people do it. I always say if there's 30 landlords in the room, there's 30 different ways to manage. And I know years ago, before I started listening to how people manage or getting ideas, I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, probably making a lot of mistakes. And now that I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of landlords, I've kind of taken what I've liked and I've kind of created my own. And so I'm looking forward to kind of hearing some of the things that you do to protect yourself, but then to find that right renter. So thank you for joining us today on the Rent Perfect Podcast today. So to start out, just tell me a little bit about Boise REIN, what you do, why people should come and see you, and what they would get out of it. I would love to hear, how you benefit people's life.
Yeah, the genesis of Boise REIN, which is our local RIA equivalent here in the state of Idaho. It's Boise Real Estate Investor Network. But I started doing meetups for investors about 11 years ago. Been doing them on a regular basis ever since. And then a couple of years ago, we thought, let's really add some more value to local investors and professionals that support investors, and built that up in 2023. And what we do is we educate. Like a good RIA should. And we make sure that people walk away connected and inspired, but really are equipped to have success if they're going to get into this investing game, no matter what that looks like, whether they're a landlord or, of course, there's a myriad different types of investing. But as a personal experience, what I can best talk to is we've been doing buy and hold landlording for a couple of decades here in Idaho.
I love that. I was just speaking at a RIA last night, and the person that went before me was just throwing out statistic after statistic of where the market was and what was going on. And I was picturing me 20 years ago being there just with just this fire hose of information just coming at me, and all these just people who seemed like they knew everything that there was to know in the room, and I was the only dummy in the room. And yet, so many times during the night, as I'm sure in your RIA I heard, hey, if you need a mentor, if you need somebody just to help you, you're getting a lot thrown at you. But these RIAs or REINs will put their arm around you. And if you have the will and desire to go out and do what you want to do, this is the avenue to get it done. It's hard to do it by yourself when you're just so new. So that's what I love about different RIAs, right, around the country, including Boise. If you're in Boise, you want to become a landlord, you want to fix and flip, you want to do some investing, you need to come meet Jonna and her group. They will help you jumpstart and probably save a ton of money making mistakes with all the knowledge that they have.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. And we actually serve all of Idaho. So we've got a virtual option, and we just love to make connections. I actually have investment properties in different parts of the state as well. So anywhere in Idaho, look me up and we'll have a conversation.
That's awesome, Jonna, because I know that later on, I'm at the end of my career. I've had a lot of fun, but my whole goal now is take this younger generation and let's teach you how to get ahead. This world is not easy. I mean, it's not easy for my kids. I'm sure your kids have their own struggle, as every kid out there does. And let's show you how you can get more out of life and get ahead of life. And so if anybody's watching this that is, in this younger generation, don't hesitate to come hang out with us old people. We want to really help you too. So
Heck yeah, we got college kids that come to ours. It's so much fun. I
right.
love having every experience level. That's what makes it so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I mostly do long-term hold. I got into a little short-term, mid-term rentals, but I'm really interested in just to kind of talk to you about how do you manage your long-term holds up there in Idaho, and it might be different than what we do here in Phoenix. And so, the first thing I get asked a lot of people nowadays is, where do I go to market? Like my property comes vacant. I get that call, we're moving out. I mean, what's a good platform nowadays? How do I do it? How do I find the best people? Because what we teach here at Rent Perfect is a good tenant's worth $125,000 if they're going to be with you for 5 years and pay you $2,000 a month. Where do I find that person? Because there's a lot of people out there that aren't worth $125,000. In fact, will cost you $25,000 in a flip and in a meth rehab and all that good stuff. So tell me how you guys, or how your team markets up there in Idaho nowadays.
Well, it's been a myriad of trial and error over the years, and as things have changed, Idaho is kind of a Wild West platform in that we don't have properties on MLS. Like, agents don't market rental properties at all. There's no compensation for agents, and people are advertising them so many different places. And it's really a quandary for the tenants to try to find the rentals, because there's not one common platform or a go-to professional for them to find them all over the state. So it's really important that as landlords, we tap into the best places to get them out there. And for us in the last couple of years, it's really been utilizing as a real estate agent. I'm also an agent. It pains me sometimes, but really a lot of it's been through the Zillow platform, and syndicating it out to all the different platforms, whether that's HotPads or rentals.com, and every place that people can normally find a rental online. But we want to appear legitimate. We want to be in those multiple locations. I do stay away from Craigslist completely. Haven't marketed there in years. Watched many of my rentals get spammed and scammed over the years. And boy, there's some stories about that. And then Facebook Marketplace is someplace where I know a lot of people in our Boise REIN community have a lot of success. There's some pitfalls for that as well. I have someone close to me that got locked out of his Facebook account forever because kind of falling for a scam with passwords and everything while marketing a rental property. So me, the first go-to is the Zillow platform and having it broadcast out to those different channels.
Can you, I usually don't like to knock anything, so I'm not really asking you to knock. Can you tell me some great things about Zillow? Do you have some things that you're a little cautious about Zillow using?
Yeah, for sure. I know we're aligned in the idea of like not providing too much information about a vacant property. And so sometimes it's a little challenging to get around the address thing. I thought you brought up a good point last time we talked, Dave, and I'll just reiterate it. The idea of not broadcasting that you've got a vacant property and the specifics of that around everywhere. And sometimes that can be a little tricky with Zillow. I haven't played with that too much, but had an experience just a couple of years ago where I had a vacant property and we found a squatter in it. And it wasn't just the advertising though. I learned something in that I had a lockbox clearly on the door there, and it could be seen from the street. I don't think that was a smart idea in retrospect. And so it cost us some time and money when that happened.
Absolutely. So in Zillow, they have a checkmark box that says, do not show my address. And so when people say, hey, where's this located? It gives the circle of the map. It's like somewhere in this vicinity. But you certainly really need to be careful in any of your advertising putting the address, because people are looking right now to copy that ad, put that address in their ad, get people to start looking at it, sending them deposits and money, and all of a sudden just taking over as the owner of the property. Because there's really nothing stopping me from grabbing your address of your property, grabbing your pictures that are all available, completely copying your ad, changing the phone number to me, and then all of a sudden everybody nowadays has Zelle or Venmo, right? Venmo, you mean your deposit. The next thing you know, you have someone completely taking over your property. So be careful. And we're not saying that's a Zillow problem. That is an online problem. It's even a sign in your front yard problem, because if people see a sign in the front yard, they look through the windows, it's kind of empty. They know that, this house is probably up for rent. Obviously, if for rent sign's in the front, it's up for rent. And they could turn around and put their own Zillow, Craigslist, Facebook and start acting like they're the owner of the property too. And so something that we do down here, Jonna, is we make sure we talk to the neighbors of the rental. And I think that is just so important to talk to the neighbors and say, hey guys, I will introduce you to the new tenants coming in here so you know they're supposed to be in here. But if you see anybody sniffing around, walking around, here is my number, please call me. I think neighbors can be so important in this marketing process. And I've even gone over, and let the neighbors know that. And the neighbors have said to me, hey, my sister-in-law is looking in this neighborhood and she wants to move close to me. And I found the rental just through telling the neighbors that this place is going up for rent. Right?
With a personal referral, which is the best.
100%. Now you know that, hey, the neighbors have been there. They're great. There's a reason that they'll be there for 5 years because their family lives next door. And who wants to move away from family, right?
Right. And think about that ounce of prevention. If I would have been as smart as you, David, a couple of years ago with that vacant property, if I would have had those conversations with neighbors, and here I had been landlording for 18 years at this point, I didn't think to do that. So that's why this podcast is so valuable. If I would have had a 1 5-minute conversation, they would have said, hey, someone strange is living in your house.
Right. Yeah,
so.
Especially you say you have properties all over Idaho. I know you're not driving all over every day looking at all those properties, right? You need other eyes on there for you. And the great thing is other eyes are free. Now, if you want to put a video camera, into your place and have it recording, hey, all for you. Do whatever it takes to protect your property. And if you have a Wi-Fi and if you have power on in it, I would go get a little home surveillance camera and put it at the front door or put it on the inside if that's possible for you. So I don't do that right now, but I certainly would if I felt like I had a property in an area where I was overly concerned. I'm overly concerned about a lot of them, but I'm talking about that certain neighborhood that some of you might have some properties in.
Well, and people don't even have to be it really doesn't have to be a certain neighborhood, in my opinion. I mean, this certainly wasn't. And we don't have quote unquote ghettos in Boise. We just don't. It was so surprising. We were shocked. And so it really can happen anywhere.
Well, come down here to Phoenix and I'll take you to a few places of town. And you'll see all the police lights and the video surveillance cameras because that's really what it's coming to nowadays. So if you're looking to invest, go to Boise. There's no bad areas in Boise. It's a great place to be. So we don't have that luxury down here. Facebook. I like to go to specific Facebook groups. Within Facebook, it kind of helps me find kind of the people that I'm looking for. Maybe sometimes whether they're students or newly marrieds or different groups like that. Tell me, do you ever use Facebook groups at all?
Yeah, we use our own Facebook group, actually, with Boise. We have a group for, of course, what do you know, investors in Idaho. But even there's not necessarily that many tenants looking at that. But the beauty of it, you have other landlords looking at that. And for various reasons, you've got tenants that need to move up and down in price point or location. They may know of a really good tenant and they're needing to sell the property and they don't want them to have a great place to relocate to. So that I found there's a lot of deals that get done in there by personal referral, again, from landlords that have great tenants that might need another place in the area. And we have hundreds of agents in there too. And real estate agents are constantly looking for places for their clients to rent before they buy, that sort of thing. So specific real estate related groups, I think, are an excellent source.
No, perfect. I get that call too. Hey, I've got somebody, I don't have a place for him, but I really like him. I need to put him somewhere. What do you got? And I don't know, maybe, call Jake. And then just between our, internal group that's passing people around, we usually can find somebody that has a rental somewhere to accommodate them. So networking. Huh?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Networking is huge. That's all I was going to say. You've got so much more
Absolutely.
important stuff.
No, I was just going to say that we've had some great success with our current tenants too that have moved on that may have someone. We had one recently that they had their brother take over and do the next lease on the property. They moved out of state and they had been a great tenant and their family member continues to be so. So always mention that to your good tenants that you'd love to have another one of, and they probably know good people.
Awesome. Okay. And then you mentioned you just don't use Craigslist anymore. It's really not built, in my opinion, to keep yourself safe and to advertise on there. So if you're new to marketing your company, it's probably Craigslist is probably something you should stay away from. at your own risk to doing that. So.
And one thing on that, though, with Craigslist, I would say it isn't a bad idea to check it once in a while if you have a vacant property or a listing for rent, because, we've caught some of ours on there as scams. And it's always good just to make sure that it's not on there by mistake.
I'm going to do that, and I haven't done that before, and I think that's a nugget for me here on this podcast is, you should be putting your addresses into the search boxes, even online in Google, and just make sure that there's no nefarious things going on nowadays. Hey, Boise is a great area. Come to Phoenix, and everybody, when you turn your back, will be jumping into a property if they can. We just seem to be in that position in certain areas of town. So I'm so glad to hear that Boise does great, but the rest of us that are in the bigger cities are going, yeah, that's really not the world that we see. So, so feel lucky being up there. You're in a great environment. Awesome. Well, am I missing anything that you guys do in your marketing that just places where you put your marketing?
Well, I want to chat, not so much places, because that's really what we do. A couple of conditions about the marketing. I'm talking from an agent perspective. So I do a lot of houses for sale too, right? And market. My job when I work with investors is to make sure they get the most money possible when it's time for them to sell their single family rental property. So I always look at it with that hat, and I think that, in my opinion, to get the most exposure and most great potential tenants in the door is you got to really not ignore your pictures and the quality of the rental information that you put up. So we go in with professional photos. It's not that much. A lot of people balk at that. It's a couple $100 to get 25 to 30 great photos of your home. Maybe even a little light staging, depending on the type of the property it is. So having some color in there, and making sure that the description sings. Right. And it's not just this 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom home will be fine for you. We have a thing called Chat GPT now. We're utilizing that, really maximizing the wording and the verbiage and making that an inviting property and help that tenant experience what they're going to have in that part of town, in that area, in that particular home. We have so many people. Idaho is very much like Arizona in that we have so many people coming in from out of state. And initially, they are reading those rental property descriptions. A lot of time, haven't even been to the area yet. Right. You're going to want to make them those descriptions shine and make them want to be the first in there. And then my other tip related to the marketing is for everyone to make sure you're checking your competition closely, both for rental rates and then also what others are advertising and what their description is and what their pictures look like. And you just want to be the shiniest apple. If you've got 10 rental properties, we have quite a bit of competition right now for people with a lot of properties for rent. And so you want to be the shiniest apple in the barrel and make sure that you really stand out, and little things and taking a little extra time. And like I said, a couple extra $100 for that professional photo shoot will set you far and above apart and have people want to pay top dollar. That's something that I've found tried and true over the last 10 years, especially.
And I keep all my photos, and if they're not outdated, I use the photos the next time I have.
100%.
Right? It's not like you have to take photos every other time. When you buy a home, get a nice set of photos and just keep them in a nice place, and you can just use those over and over again as long as you don't do any kind of major remodel or stuff like that. So I agree. If we talk about finding those tenants that are going to be there for 5 years, I want them loving my home, not just any home, right? And those pictures and those descriptions really help them to start seeing that as their home, right? And I know as a realtor, your favorite thing is a person to walk in and they start placing furniture around the house, right?
Yes.
Hey, honey, the TV should go here, and they start visualizing it. And you're as an agent going, oh my gosh, okay, perfect. You don't even got to sell at that point, right? So let your pictures and let your descriptions kind of just start mentally moving them in. And, I'll have a lot of people say, hey, I want it sight unseen. And I don't do that personally. I'm not saying that you can't do it. I at least want to meet you. I want to show you the property before, we just sight unsee, do a deal. That's just my personal preference. I don't teach do or don't do it. I just don't do it. because I want to, if you're going to be there for 5 years, I want to hold hands first, right? And I want to just show you the property, and I want to make sure this is the one for you, that I don't want to fake you out online. I want you to see it live in person. I want you to say, okay, yeah, no surprises. This is advertised, as it looks. And and so I will always make sure and say, hey, listen, I will not lock a property up unless, you come and you see it. And for protection, just on the side, I always require them to show me ID, right? I want government ID, preferably a driver's license, and I want to see that first. If you're not willing to give that to me, then I'm not going to waste my time driving down to the property.
Absolutely. I love that tip. I've been utilizing that since I've heard it from you, David. And on the sight unseen, I have done it a couple of times, and I think we've made a decision we're not going to do it again. Because a lot of times there's just that misinterpretation of, our photos look good. Right. They look real, but they look good. Right. And there's been a lot of nitpicking and a lot of situations where it could have been avoided if they would have just seen the straight property, everything about it from the beginning. And we would have known them better too. So I wholeheartily agree with that.
And that's it for me. I want to know them a little better. You've got to see the pictures of my home. You've got to see how maybe I write about it. I describe it. But let's learn a little bit about you and your history and where you're coming from and why you're coming here. Not saying that I'm going to pass or fail you based on whether I like you or not. I'm not saying that at all. But this is going to be a partnership, meaning I'm going to turn over a $500,000 home to you. With just a lease, a partnership agreement called a lease, and you're going to take care of my home for me. I think we need to just know each other just a little bit. I mean, think of what other industry markets online saying, I'll give you $500,000 if you just give me an application and I look it over and I like you through an application. I mean, we are crazy as investors to think that we're handing over a $500,000 asset, maybe a little bit less in some places, maybe a little bit more in other places, based on just so little information and so little time. Now, Jonna, if you were going to go pick a partner out there to run a business with, right, would you put a notice out on Facebook or out on Zillow saying, looking for a partner in a business to give $500,000 to? No, you wouldn't do that. But if you look at these applicants coming in as possible partners, you realize that there's a lot to this. It's a lot more than just a rental, and it's a lot more than you just being a renter. You need, and I need, to become partners in a way, because whether I like it or not, whatever happens with my partners affects me. So I'm getting a divorce. I just got cancer, right? I just lost a child. All of those things are going to affect me as the property owner, whether I like it or not. I mean, life just happens, and bad things happen to good people. So, excuse me, getting over a little bit of sickness here. I don't know if you've had that run through Idaho yet or not,
no.
but boy, it's been pretty brutal down here. So, well, man, that is all fantastic. I need to get up there. But it needs to be 60 degrees.
We got some great event times coming up later in the year, Dave.
Okay.
We'll get you here.
I need to, my son is up there in law school, and I need to go up there and be a good dad and see him and swing on by and look at your real estate market and maybe a new place for me to plant some seeds and get rolling. So, Jonna, I appreciate it. I love the thought of being an investor and then saying, I'm going to help other people, so I'm going to create a REIA or a REIN, and I'm going to help other people. And it's an honor to have you on the podcast today to learn a little bit about what you're doing up there, how you're doing it, and really dig down and talk about how do we best market our properties and stay safe. And I really appreciate your insight. I've learned a lot from you today. I'm going to go Google now all of my addresses and make sure no one is marketing those for me.
Very good. I'm glad you did. I did have someone pop up to a house that we had marketed, already rented, but the tenants hadn't moved in yet, and they had given about $3,000 in security deposits away. Some phantom person in Arizona, by the way.
Whoa, no. Arizonans don't do that. Come on.
So anyhow, I was heartbroken and crushed, and they had found our phantom rental property on Craigslist. So absolutely good to get in the habit of that. And
there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, it's gone, right? The money is gone, and that's too bad. We want to keep that from well, hey, everybody out there, we are just trying to be the best landlords we can be, and we're trying to teach you to be the best landlords that you can be. Some people don't like the term landlord, but listen, I believe that if you're close to your tenants, you take good care of them. If you met them at a grocery store and they were to introduce you to a friend, they'd say, hey, this is David, my landlord. And I think it would be an all positive experience. So whether you use housing provider or whatever your thing is, let's just be the best at what we can be. And I will tell you, if you're the best at what you can be, you will make as much money as you possibly need. And I appreciate you here on the podcast today, Jonna. And we will certainly come visit you, and we'll see you around the shows and talk to you on the phone. And please let me know what you're doing up there, and we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome.
Have a great one, David.
Until next time, continue to rent perfect.